A studious and beautiful young woman finds herself trapped in a spooky castle with a beastly looking man who just wants some companionship. Now, where have I seen that premise before? This is a review of the Star Trek Enterprise episode Exile. If you have not seen this episode and you don't want to know if Hoshi and her lonely captor share true love's kiss, be warned, spoilers beyond this point. That He-Man episode where Skeletor kidnaps Tila and takes her to the castle of that Prince Evelyn has turned into a monster. That's where I've seen this premise before. Now, what was the title of that episode? As this episode begins, Hoshi's hearing voices in her head. Or are they in her head? She sees a shadowy figure standing in her room, too. She calls security, but after running all the usual scans, Malcolm can't find evidence of any intruders. He tries to reassure Hoshi that she's just cracking under the pressure of their mission and going cuckoo, but that doesn't help. Meanwhile, Captain Archer and T'Pol are going over data related to the gigantic, artificially created gravitational anomaly generating sphere they encountered several episodes ago, and T'Pol has found evidence suggesting the existence of another sphere only a few light years away. Archer orders a course change so they can go check it out. Yes, once again, we're in Season 3 of Enterprise, where the big year-long plot has to do with the crew crossing the mysterious and chaotic region of space known as the Delphic Expanse in search of a planet-killing weapon the Xindi are constructing to use against Earth. While Archer and T'Pol focus their efforts on investigating this newly discovered sphere, Hoshi gets an offer from the voice in her head. "I know your ship is on an important mission," the voice says. "I know you're looking for something. I can help you find it." Hoshi sees a realistic vision of a castle on the side of a mountain in the middle of a desolate landscape. When that vision ends, she goes to sickbay to get checked out by Phlox, who finds nothing physically wrong with her. Then, Phlox starts talking like the voice in her head and tells her, "I've been studying your mind and your memories for several days now. I'm telepathic, but I can only read certain people. You're one of the special ones. Yours is the first mind I've been able to connect with for a long time. How is this as a pickup line? Is it working? Because I don't live far from here, and I'd love to meet you, just to hang, no pressure." Telepathy Guy reiterates his offer to use his psychic powers to help out with Enterprise's Xindi mission, so Hoshi tells Captain Archer about it. Despite the recent sphere-related developments, they're still not much closer to locating the Xindi than they were when they started, so Archer agrees to make a detour to Telepathy Guy's planet. A small landing party of Hoshi, Archer, and Malcolm arrives at Telepathy Guy's castle, and they find Telepathy Guy in his office. He looks a little different in person. The vision Hoshi had of him looked human, but he's actually got a scary bug face with legs coming out of his fucking head. That's not fair. You don't judge a book by its cover. I apologize. For all I know, he could be a very nice, sweet guy who just wants to help. He says his name is Tarquin, and he's the only person on this entire planet. He's lived here alone for a very long time, and his only contact with outsiders is through his power of telepathy. That's how he found Hoshi. He offers to help locate the Xindi if Archer can give him an artifact related to them. Oh, and one final condition. Tarquin wants Hoshi to stay with him in his scary space castle while he works. Archer's like, "No deal." But Hoshi says, "Actually, I'm okay with this." So Archer's like, "Deal." While the Enterprise flies off to check out that new sphere, Hoshi gets settled in at Casa de Tarquin. For dinner, Tarquin makes a selection of Earth dishes he read in Hoshi's mind, including a truly underwhelming-looking slice of pizza. Hoshi's like, "Hey, thanks, but I'm not hungry right now. So what's your story?" Tarquin's story, as he tells it to Hoshi, is that he was born telepathic, and where he's from, telepaths are considered a danger to society, so anyone with telepathic powers is sent far away to live by themselves. So, since he's been banished to live on this planet, and he's the only one here, and he's psychic, could we call this Exile in Psyville? The way he's looking at her like, "I wanna be mesmerizing too. You." Careful, Hoshi, this one's a Johnny Sunshine if I ever saw one. Don't fucking run, just run. Anyway, Tarquin shows Hoshi to her room, gives her a book written in a lost ancient language that she can translate if she gets bored, and says, "Oh yeah, one more thing, don't go outside." "Why? Is it dangerous?" Yes, the winds are extremely treacherous. It's actually not bad during the day. Things are pretty safe. Till the night closes in. Okay, thanks for the tip. Meanwhile, Enterprise is getting close to the newly discovered sphere. Archer can tell because the water polo ball he's been tossing in his cabin suddenly sticks halfway into the wall. The spatial anomalies become so dense as they approach the sphere that it becomes unsafe for the ship to get any closer. So Archer tells Trip to do a technobabble thing to a shuttle pod to shield it from the effects. But that'll take a couple of days, so back to Beauty and the Bugface. Hoshi sees Tarquin at his desk. He's got the Xindi artifact Archer gave him in front of him, and he's touching a glowing blue egg and concentrating. He notices Hoshi and invites her in. The blue egg helps him extend his telepathic powers, see? He's learned a lot about the Xindi, but nothing that would help locate the weapon yet. Tarquin lets Hoshi take the egg for a test drive, and she gets a rush of images that ends with a Xindi guy scowling at her. She's like, hey, okay, that was fun. I'll let you get back to work. She goes outside. As promised, it's pretty windy. Also, there are graves. Tarquin appears behind her like, I'm pretty sure I said not to go outside. Hoshi's like, what's with the graves, man? Tarquin explains that the graves are those of his past companions. See, his lifespan is longer than most. He's over 400 years old. And Hoshi isn't the first person he's contacted through his telepathy. Others have come here to stay with him, to be his companions, but inevitably, they die. Tarquin was hoping Hoshi would consider staying here too. So since Tarquin lied to Hoshi about his reasons for bringing her here, does that make this an exile on Fane Street? Okay, maybe that's a reach. Tarquin says to Hoshi, if I could shine a light on this situation real quick, I know the last thing you think when you see me is I just want to see his face, but all I'm asking for is that you give me a little drink from your loving cup. Hoshi's like, ill as if, no thank you, but Tarquin seems determined to keep her here. She tries to walk away, but he appears right in front of her, once again in his hunky human form. Hoshi's like, if you think you can convince me to stay by hiding your weird bug face and your head with fucking legs sticking out of it, you can forget it. Tarquin's like, I know you've got mixed emotions, but stay with me. You thrill me. We can take it one step at a time. You and me. I'm never gonna stop. I want to kiss you all over. Meanwhile, Archer and Trip are in their modified shuttle pod. They find the sphere, but flying through the cloaking barrier that surrounds it damages the shuttle sensors, so they have to land on the sphere so Trip can make repairs. They put on their spacesuits and step outside, but while Trip is working, he accidentally fires one of the shuttle's thrusters, causing it to lift off and start floating away. Well, that's not good. Now they're stranded on this sphere with no ship, behind a cloaking field, with no way to contact Enterprise. This is a very serious situation. I can't wait to see how oh, never mind. They just shot the thruster with their phasers to turn it off, and the shuttle pod fell right back down in front of them. There's no problem at all. Everything's fine. Back on Tarquin's planet a little later, Archer has arrived to pick up Hoshi. Or has he? Hoshi is back in uniform and packing up to leave, but Archer's like, not so fast. Tarquin has found out a lot of interesting things about the Xindi, and he's offered to continue providing us with information as long as we're within range of his planet, on the condition that you stay here with him until our mission is over. Hoshi's like, ugh, but whatever, I guess, if it'll help the mission, fine. Just let me pop back up to the Enterprise real quick to pack a few things and say goodbye to the crew, since I probably won't see them for a few more months. Archer says, nah, no need for that. I'll have whatever you need sent down, and I'm sure Travis will understand why you didn't say goodbye. Hoshi's like, aha! I was just thinking about Travis, but it was a test to see if you were reading my mind. I don't even know anyone named Travis. Cut the bullshit, telepathy guy. Where's the real Captain Archer? The real Captain Archer is still aboard Enterprise. He orders the beefy lunkhead who's filling in for Hoshi at the comm station to call Hoshi and tell her they're coming to get her, but the lunkhead is like, duh, there's something wrong. The signal's not getting through. And then the entire ship loses power. Nice going, beefo. It's actually Tarquin who is somehow responsible for Enterprise losing power. He says to Hoshi, if you stay with me, I'll let the ship go. If you don't agree to stay with me, I'll just leave their power turned off and eventually they'll die and you'll stay with me anyway. So either way, you're staying with me. Hoshi's like, "Oh yeah?" And she grabs the magic egg that he uses to enhance his telepathy and threatens to smash it if he doesn't let her go. "Sure," she says, "if I destroy this egg, you can still kill all my friends on the Enterprise and keep me here, but eventually I'll die, and you'll still be alive, and you'll never be able to contact anyone else with your telepathy. You'll be alone here forever after I'm gone." Tarquin's like, "Jesus Christ, you're so mean. What did I ever do to you?" And he lets her go. We get a captain's log from Archer who tells us that they've got Hoshi and that Tarquin didn't give her any useful information on the Xindi, but that's okay, because Archer and Tripp's survey of the sphere has given T'Pol enough new information to predict the existence as well as the locations of 50 of those spheres. That's why the Delphic Expanse is such a hazardous region of space. All those spheres sending out waves of gravitational distortions. But now they can map the anomalies, which will make navigating through the expanse a lot easier. And that's not all the good news. Hoshi gets a final psychic visit from Tarquin in her quarters. She's like, "I'm calling security." Tarquin's like, "Don't do it. Ain't got no time today. There's been a change." He tells her that he's brought her some information about the Xindi, because he doesn't want to see her harmed on this dangerous mission. "I look at you and think she's too good to be true. So better hang on to your heart, because I got love, super duper love, and I could get used to you. Maybe someday, when you need somebody who's going to pick you up whenever you fall, who's going to be there anytime you call, it'll be me." Cut to Hoshi handing Archer a tablet with the information she was just given by Tarquin. The location of a Xindi colony. Hey, look at that! Telepathy guy came through in the end. Turns out the man who lured a woman to his isolated home under false pretenses and tried to keep her there until she died wasn't so bad after all. Let that be a lesson to everyone, but especially you ladies, about the evils of prejudice. The end. Like so many other episodes of Enterprise, including some I've reviewed in this series already, I appreciate what this one is trying to do, though I find the execution extremely lacking. This is season 3 of the show, and during the season, the creators tried to tell a more serialized, season-long story while also maintaining a format of mostly standalone episodes. That's a great idea, in theory. I've said many times that's how I think this sort of thing should always be done. It's the best way to do series television, and on paper, Exile is a good example of this approach. The developing Xindi arc plays an important role in both the A and the B plot of the episode. While Archer, T'Pol, and Trip busy themselves investigating another sphere, Hoshi goes off to Tarquin's castle in the hope of obtaining information that will help them locate the Xindi and stop them from using their ultimate weapon against Earth. The stuff involving the sphere isn't well suited to a standalone episode and depends heavily on stuff that happened in previous episodes, but the Hoshi story is more or less freestanding, and it's a solid premise, perfectly suited to a Star Trek show. Hoshi finds herself in this Beauty and the Beast scenario due to factors related to the Xindi arc, but if the Xindi arc wasn't part of the show, there are any number of other possible reasons the writers could have come up with to get her on this planet alone with Telepathy Guy. Hoshi's story ties in with the larger story, but it's also its own self-contained thing with its own beginning, middle, and end. Terrific. In theory. In practice, not so terrific. Once Hoshi arrives at Tarquin's castle, we begin listlessly shuffling from one plot point to the next with no sense of momentum, no mounting dread, no tension. A story like this needs us to feel concerned for Hoshi, to regard Tarquin as a potential threat, or to at least be curious about what Tarquin's deal is ultimately going to turn out to be. Questions like, who is this guy? And why is he here all by himself? And what does he really want from Hoshi? And did the people in those graves actually die of natural causes? Should be occurring to us and compelling us to want to know the answers. Instead, most of these questions are either answered directly through expository dialogue or are never brought up to begin with. Who is Tarquin? Why is he here? Hoshi asks him and he just tells her, and apparently what he tells her is the truth. There's no later reveal to show that Tarquin was hiding something from her, no other shoe to drop. Same thing with Tarquin's dead companions. He tells Hoshi, my lifespan is a lot longer than theirs. They died and I buried them and it was sad. Again, Hoshi takes him at face value, and apparently we're supposed to do the same thing. Think about the trappings of this story. Yes, it's obviously a Beauty and the Beast riff, but there are the ingredients present for this to be a Beauty and the Beast riff heavily flavored with gothic horror, spooky castle, stormy weather outside, unexpected graves, a reclusive host with questionable motives. Why isn't this more interesting? Or at least more fun? Despite the circumstances, Hoshi never seems to genuinely be in danger, and Tarquin never seems genuinely dangerous. Even if the endgame for Tarquin's character is to reveal that actually he's just a lonely guy who doesn't mean any harm, he should still seem to be a threat to Hoshi up to the point of that revelation, because otherwise, what's the point of any of this? He lures her to his castle. He wants her to stay with him. She says no. He tries to force her by threatening her ship through totally unexplained means, by the way. She threatens him back with the destruction of his magic egg. He immediately caves. She leaves, and he helps her anyway to show that he actually cares. Where's the drama? The other side of the episode has the same problem. There's a momentary glimmer of hope that something interesting might be about to happen when Archer and Trip find themselves standing on the surface of the sphere watching their shuttle pod float away. That's quite an intriguing dilemma that lasts for about a minute until they're able to shoot the shuttle pod down. Christ, it even lands right back in front of them. They don't even have to walk to it. It's hard to get involved in an episode as a viewer when the episode itself seems so indifferent to everything that happens in it. The element that suffers from this indifference the most is the character of Tarquin. He's the Beast in the Beauty and the Beast scenario. But in most tellings of that story, the Beast is meant to be a kind of tragic hero. Yes, he does things that are unacceptable. He holds a woman captive. He attempts to compel her affection. He resorts to emotional blackmail. Okay, you can go home and visit your father, but if you don't come back, I'll die of a broken heart, etc. But we're supposed to have sympathy for him because eventually we learn that he's lonely and cursed, and that's why he behaved the way he has, not because he's a bad guy at heart. Does Tarquin have any of those qualities? Yeah, sure, he's been exiled to this planet by his own people because of his psychic abilities. That's not right. But is there any point in the episode where he elicits your sympathy? Do you ever feel bad for him? I don't. I know he's been mistreated in principle, but I don't feel it. The episode doesn't do anything to sell it. He mostly comes across as a mopey jerk who lied to a woman to get her to come over to his house and then didn't want to let her leave. Obviously, this story doesn't map perfectly onto Beauty and the Beast. There's no curse on Tarquin to be broken, and there's no happily ever after ending for him and Hoshi in the cards. That being the case, the separation of Tarquin and Hoshi at the conclusion should at least have some hint of bitter sweetness to it, wouldn't you think? Like, of course they weren't going to end up together, and we shouldn't really want them to, but there should be that little faint wispy thread of, oh, but wouldn't it be nice? That doesn't happen, though, because there's nothing about Tarquin's character or his interaction with Hoshi that makes us want that. Even the never judge a book by its cover moral that is a part of most tellings of Beauty and the Beast is absent here. Tarquin isn't a guy who looks like a monster but turns out to be noble and kind. He's a guy who looks like a monster who turns out to be an abusive, manipulative jerk. Even his last-second decision to share the information he learned about the Zindi with Hoshi doesn't play like the selfless act of an honorable person, but rather as a transparent, desperate final plea for pity. I'm sure it must suck to be him, but fuck this guy. Functionally, this is a Hoshi episode, but it doesn't really do anything to showcase Hoshi as a character or Linda Park as an actor. This isn't so much a story about Hoshi as it is a story where most of the main action involves Hoshi. In the space of a couple of scenes, she goes from being understandably freaked out by this stranger telepathically whispering in her ear to convincing Captain Archer to drop her off alone on Telepathy Guy's planet. This doesn't make her seem brave or committed to the mission like I think it's supposed to. It doesn't make her seem reckless either. It makes her seem like a character doing what the plot dictates, which is the worst of all options. The episode doesn't do Captain Archer any favors either. He's the one who allows Hoshi to stay at Tarquin's place. And based on what? Tarquin's promise to use his psychic powers to help them find the Zindi? So the captain of the ship sends one of the youngest and least experienced members of his command crew to spend a few days alone in a scary space castle with some sinister-seeming random dude? Because that random dude said he had some valuable info for them when he telepathically cold called her? And then later on, when his spaceship is floating away, the best solution he can come up with is, let's shoot at it? I mean, okay, credit where it's due, the let's shoot at it plan works, but still. Exile is directed by Roxanne Dawson, who helmed a total of 10 episodes of Enterprise, as well as 2 episodes of Star Trek Voyager before that, and is, of course, best known for playing B'Elanna Torres on Voyager. Here, as a director, Dawson does competent work, but she adds nothing to the material. There are some unique and potentially interesting settings, the surface of the sphere, Tarquin's scary space castle, but everything feels pretty flat and just kind of there. The episode is written by Phyllis Strong, who wrote or co-wrote a bunch of episodes for Voyager and Enterprise, including several that are not bad. This one, however, is not bad. There are some truly classic Star Trek episodes that reference fairy tales or folk tales or famous works of literature, even a few that serve as loose, unofficial adaptations. With a bit more imagination, this episode of Enterprise might have been one of those. Unfortunately, it didn't turn out to be worthy of the classics shelf. It's not so terrible that you should feel compelled to exile it, but you can definitely ignore it. Those are my thoughts on Exile. What do you think of this episode? Please share your thoughts with me in the comments. If you'd like to support this channel, and I sure wish you would if you can afford it, you can do so by becoming a patron at patreon.com/Steve Shives, becoming a channel member by clicking the join button, or by making a one-time gift by clicking the thanks button, or via PayPal or Venmo. Links are in the description. That wraps it up for this batch of reviews. Please join me next time as I begin a new batch. The theme will be AI Gone Awry. And the first episode I'll be reviewing in that batch is one from Star Trek, the original series, titled The Changeling. See you next time for that one. Thanks for watching, and take care, everybody.